been almost a year since I made a video on the Govee Permanent Lights, and I've had quite a few questions, and I thought I'd make a video answering some of the common questions asked, sharing some of my experiences with the Govee Permanent Lights, as well as explaining more in depth how I installed my lights. What's up YouTube? Welcome back to DIY Reed. My name is Reed, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I cover a range of topics, including tech reviews, home automation, and how-to videos for both home and automotive. I'm going to try my best to organize this video from start to finish, answering some of the questions I've been asked in my previous video, as well as sharing my experiences in hopes I don't ramble too much. I probably will, but I hope not. And I'm already starting to do it. If you're looking for more of an in-depth video on the Govee Permanent Lights, please be sure to check out the previous video. I'll leave a link in the description below, as well as I don't know if it's up here or here, but it'll come out and you can watch it later. These lights are powered by a standard outlet. For most people, their house doesn't have a convenient way outside to plug these lights into. This causes a problem for most when trying to plan how they're going to hang these lights up and get them powered. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best way, but here's what I did. I didn't have an outlet near where I wanted to start my string of lights. So what I did is I drilled a hole into my garage from outside and then just took that power wire and stuck it through the hole, through my drywall in my garage, and then ran that to an outlet inside my garage. Then once I was done there, I went ahead and patched the hole up, or at least put some silicone in there, so that way it keeps it safe from the weather as well as any bugs trying to get in. Here's how I have my lights set up. I knew I wanted to start from left to right on my house, and I knew that I had to get to the second story from the main level somehow. Each Govee kit comes with a 16-foot extension cord, which allowed me to get the lights from the main level to my second story. With that being said, there were a few spots in my house where I needed to get from one eave to another, and I found that there was no way other than sticking the lights on the side of my house, as you see here. Not the most ideal solution, however, it's the only thing I could think of, and the only thing I could think of what to do on this, and they aren't as noticeable as you think. You can technically turn these specific lights off in the app. However, that only works on certain settings, which I'll explain a little bit later in this video when I cover the app. Each light sticks to the eave using a 3M VHB tape, which is pretty strong. However, I did find that there were some issues with this. Now, I did install mine in summer or May, so it was like 70, 80, 90 degrees, and it did go through the summer, which was 100 degrees, but still, I know Govee recommends using their wire straps every so many lights. However, I didn't want to use them. On the angled areas of my garage, I found that the light stays up on the eave without any help. However, the eaves that are parallel to the ground, the light stayed up for a couple days, maybe a week, and then ended up unsticking. And then, of course, once one unsticks, the weight of that starts taking the rest of them down one by one. To fix this issue, I went ahead and used a staple gun that allowed me to control the depth of the staple. The depth of the staple being able to be controlled allowed me so I didn't punch or pinch the wire. And then also I wanted to make sure that the staple is wide enough so it goes around the wire and not through it. I then put a staple on each side of each light that I could. These staples have kept up my lights successfully for almost a full year now. I only stapled the ones that are parallel to the ground. The ones that are at an angle have stayed up without any other help, like I mentioned before. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's less pull force when they're at that type of angle. I'm really not sure. Something to do with physics, I'm sure. Okay, so here's the Govee app, and on the main area here, you're going to, first of all, if you want to set up any automations, I have 4 of their devices, but if you want to set up any automations, you have to do it here versus going into the actual device that you want to set up the automation on. Let's go to that a little bit later here, but if you click on the actual device, you can't actually set up or see any of the setup before you turn the lights on. So we got to power the lights on first to get any of the options, which is kind of weird. You have a timer, so you can have them turn off after a couple of hours. They do have image effects, so you can upload an image and it takes those colors and puts it up there, which is kind of cool. Snapshot is basically down below here. I am able to set up, right now I have them segmented. If I turn it to advanced, this allows me to set up each individual light based on colors. Right now we have red, and if I do the color wheel, you see the one with the line through it, the red line? That means that's no lights. So if I wanted to find one that I wanted to turn off, I can do that. Those lights will be turned off. But I don't know which one it is on my lights, so I have to go outside and figure it out. And then I can hit undo to get it to figure out which one it is, make sure I go over. Another thing I wanted to say is these are very hard to tap on with my fingers, and I don't have very big hands or big fingers, but they're very hard to tap on. I wish they were a little bit bigger so they're easier, because when I go through here, if I do every other color on certain things, I do find myself making quite a few errors, and it just takes a lot longer than it should be. But you're able to do different colors based on the color wheel here, which is really nice. Now, the problem is if you turn off certain lights, you can only use the gradient, I believe the twinkle, and the breathe function of it. If you do the clockwise or counterclockwise or cycle where the lights move, it doesn't, now all of a sudden that light has moved and it doesn't stay on that light. So it doesn't just skip those lights, which is kind of annoying. So you pretty much have to set it up a certain way for certain lights to, if you want certain lights not to come on, which I guess, I don't know. For my setup, it sucks, but because I can't turn those lights off on the side of the house permanently. What's really nice is they do have all these different automated setups: Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, game day, whatever, New Year's, and all that. They have, looks like they updated life, white light. That's kind of new. So they're updating a few here and there, which is kind of cool. They do have one for Christmas, a bunch of different Christmas ones, which is really nice to have. You can set it up for music, but the problem is the little microphone for the music's on the control box that you plug into the wall. So you have to have music pretty much playing towards that and allow it to go to music, which, whatever. Now we're going to the automation here. So we tap on automation. This one's deleted. This one's to turn off the lights tonight, but there's two different ones: schedule and then auto run. The schedule will allow me to do it by plan by week or plan by date. So I can do every Monday or every Sunday or every weekday, turn on the lights at a certain time, turn them off at a certain time, or I can do it by date. So if I just find out what each K-State game is, what date it is, like I say usually every day Saturday for football games, but for basketball games, it's Saturday and then it's a weekday. So I could do that and manually put them in, no big deal. However, if I wanted to auto run it, say at sunset or sunrise, you have to go into the auto run area, and then this gives us the sunset and sunrise, and then you can also do NFC tags. So at least I'll do that. So going into two different menus is kind of weird, but also I got to set up an automation to turn on the lights, and then I got to set up an automation to turn them off, or else it will never turn them on. Why can't they have it in the same area? Turn on at this time, turn off at this time. Here are my final thoughts a year later. While the setup isn't perfect, it is a ton easier than doing something like WLED, which is totally a DIY custom RGB setup that does similar functions. The lights are bright and shine very well in my house. They make the lighting setup very custom and one of a kind. Having the ability to customize each light to the color that you want to make it customizes your house's look. I make one for the nighttime of my favorite sports teams: K-State games, Chiefs games, Royals games, etc. As you can see here, I have purple and white for K-State games, and it goes till it's a little bit later in the night, maybe 10, 11 o'clock, so I don't annoy my neighbors. Then I have Chiefs, which is yellow and, it's yellow and red. I was going to say gold, but yellow and red. And then I have one for the Royals, which is all the three colors: the baby blue, the gold, the white, and so on. I wish the tape itself was strong enough to keep the lights up on all surfaces, but unfortunately it's not the case. And I've talked with others with the same issue. I'm not really sure what to tell you on this other than make sure that you have a secondary way to put them up. Thankfully, you can tack them up with staples, or I've seen people, they made a 3D print for each. You can get them on Thingiverse. They have a 3D print that goes over the light, and then you put a little screw in. Seems a little bit excessive if you want to do it on all of the lights, but maybe of every other or every three, it's up to you. Now, I kind of brushed over the automation menus. They're a little confusing. You need to create a completely separate automation to shut off the lights. So you set one to turn on the lights, and then you set one to turn them off. That seems ridiculous. You can't just set them to turn on and then turn off in one automation. Setting up turning on and off base times versus setting it up, turning it on and off during time versus sunrise and sunset are in two different automation menus. I don't know why they did this. I feel like they could have made it a lot simpler to set up, but they didn't. Maybe there's an update coming down the road. Maybe it seems easier for you. I don't know. It just felt complicated for me when setting up automations. Overall, the Govee Permanent Lights are a replacement for my Christmas lights. I just ran into a few minor annoyances. I don't even know if that's what you want to call it. Maybe let's call it just mainly quirks that I found. If you watched this video and my first one and still have questions, feel free to leave me a comment down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm available to answer any questions I can. If this is your first time to my channel, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.